I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the Black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% Black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Man Listen Show. You can go to our bio and our Instagram, buy our merchandise, go to our YouTube, click that bell icon, leave a comment, and make sure you let everybody know about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Mark B. Let's bring the crew in. So, sad news, y'all. Down in Mississippi, a young man named Nolan Wells, 18 years old, went with a group of friends who happened to be all white to some island in Mississippi for July 4th. The group of friends left him on the island, but they took his phone with them. They said he wanted to stay back. Now, first of all, why a young Black man in Mississippi will go out into the woods with a bunch of white folks? I'm not trying to blame the young man, but okay. But I find it mighty suspicious that he would want to stay by himself in the woods on this island by himself. But they took his phone. Days later, his body was found, and his family has a lot of questions. They finally found the phone, and they found that there was a lot of deleted messages, right? And allegedly, there was a video of him getting into an altercation with one of the people on the trip. So obviously, it smells of foul play. Apparently, one of the parents also is a judge in the area. So there's some suspicion about, what that person's involvement is with this. But a lot of the conversation on Black social media centered on why would you allow your child to hang out in an all-white space by themselves like Nolan did. I'm conflicted on that because I understand where people are coming from, but I think you get dangerously into victim blaming when you do that. But I just want to get you all's opinion on the whole situation and what does that mean for our young Black people and the situations that they put themselves in.
I mean, I agree. I think it's definitely victim blaming to say he shouldn't have been in that situation or else this wouldn't have happened. One, he's a child and that's the area that they live in, and knowing the cost of living and how hard it is to pick up and move and go other places. If that's where they live, that's where they live. Those are the friends he made. Those are the friends he made. You can't be like, you can't be friends with these people without a specific reason. Obviously, we can parent to a certain extent, but if we don't have grounds for our child to not be friends with a certain person, you can't just say, well, too bad, you don't need friends. Just grow up without friends and without these social experiences that all children need. But the idea that any teenager wants to be anywhere without their phone is unbelievable to me, period. And the fact that a teenager would want to be separated from his friends without his phone is, again, unbelievable. So I think being a lawyer, I have coached my child immensely on what to do in certain situations. And it always involves calling me first. So I'm 100% sure that judge manhandled and dictated how they operated after whatever happened. And I'm not speculating that there's any fault or blame anywhere because I don't know enough about the facts of the case or the details. I know that it does seem very suspicious that this child was left alone. And I also think it's very suspicious that all of these random token Black people are coming forward to say, I don't think there's any racial tensions anywhere in the school. Like, where'd the coach come from? Like you always say, just be quiet. Just wait and see what happens. You don't even know. You weren't on the island. So why are you getting trotted out as somebody to say our school doesn't have racism? It does. And even if it's just a these are my better friends than you, so I'm going to stick with them if they did something wrong, that still plays a part in this. And I just think that it's unfortunate that the parents have to deal with the scrutiny on both sides. It's one, they're just trying to get answers about their child. Two, they got to go to the extents of getting somebody like Ben Crump to get the answers about their child or to get their child's phone return and all these other things. But then to have people criticizing whether or not they should have allowed their child to be friends with any group of kids. My son grew up in a similar situation, so I can't criticize that at all. And I would leave my child with those other parents all the time. Literally, one of those other parents was the hub for all of the boys. So I definitely can't say anything. I can call them right now and talk to them. My kid's been off at school and had his own kids now. So I don't fault those parents for anything that they did. I just hope that they find the information that they need and the peace that they need because this situation keeps happening. So obviously something needs to be done.
Lab, what you think? Before you
Well,
go, Lab, the judge's name is Ashley Cole, and she's a judge down there. And one of her sons was one of the friends that was out there. So she's made a statement about all this because there's been a lot of scrutiny and accusations made about her involvement, whether it be coaching them on how to handle it, or did she supply alcohol? This is all stuff that people suspect could happen. I was about to make up a word. Y'all know I'm good for that. So it is all alleged, but it does. I think whenever you have one black person with all white people, it's not considered to be far-fetched to be suspicious about how that person it would end up losing their life. So allegedly they say that he drowned and that's how he died.
right. And like Arika hit on, why would you stay without your phone? That makes absolutely zero sense. That's first and foremost. Uh, Secondly, it's location, right? So if this happens in Muskegon, Michigan, it's still going to be racial, but Mississippi, because of the history in Mississippi, that's another layer to it. As far as he shouldn't have been there, I mean, how many of us were 18 and your parents don't know exactly where you were, who you were at all times, right? So, you know, parents allowing their kid to hang out with someone, who knows? The parents might not have quote unquote allowed him. He might have went on his own volition, told his parents he was going X, Y, and Z, and he's over here at ABC. So that kind of thing, can't blame the parents. Now, I do have a little bit of a different take about the white or predominantly white space having your child in one. I do think that's something that we need to be more conscious of, not only because situations like this, but just them navigating school and social interactions. Sometimes it can put an undue burden on them where they have to feel like they're playing two sides of the fence, they're playing in two worlds, and that kind of stuff just accumulates over time. And over time, you go through some traumatic experiences possibly that you don't have anyone else there that can relate to it, and so it is something that we do have to be more conscious of. I feel.
I hear what y'all are saying, but I do think it's incumbent upon us as parents to talk about our children and make sure that they have their spidey senses aware at all times. I mean, we tell them like, hey, listen, if you are on a business trip, we all have, Rika and I have young adults, like you don't get drunk in front of people that you work with. You don't do this type of things. There's certain things that we teach our young women, like, hey, listen, Don't just take drinks from somebody that just says, "Hey, here's a drink." We do tell people to be leery about certain situations because there are people who out here who do not mean you any good and will do you harm. So I don't think it's insensitive, but it's not incorrect to say that we need to warn our children about being in all white spaces alone without being able to get to safety. I saw a situation where there was a young black man who was out with his white friends. He said he couldn't swim, and they left him on one side of this river or this creek, and they were telling him, just swim. He was like, man, I'm scared. I can't swim. And thankfully, a family or white family was coming by on their canoes or their raft or whatever. And while his alleged friends were telling him, like, dude, we taught you how to swim, right? They were trying to make him just basically risk his life. This family came along and they said, hey, grab onto, our raft, our canoe. I don't know exactly what it was. And they pulled him to safety. And when they got him to safety, he says, I'm never hanging with you guys again. There is, I'm just going to say it. There is a level of wickedness that some people have that I think a lot of us underestimate. And I personally grew up in an area where white people really didn't have to worry about the ramifications of how they treated Black people if they wanted to be racist because the space was all white. It's different when you grow up like in a Kansas City or St. Louis or New York or a place like that because, you could go be racist if you want to, but you're going to do it in your little bubble. Because if you do it around other people, you're going to get punched in your mouth. There's a security. And when you are dealing with that type of insensitivity, you really have to be careful about the situations that you put yourself in. And you really do put yourself at great risk. I don't care if you're 18 or if you're 49 like me. There's certain places I'm not going. I have customers who talk about they go hunting all the time. Why don't you come out and go hunting with us? Hell no. They might be great guys, but I'm not going to be the only Black guy out there in the
Dick Cheney.
woods with a bunch of white dudes with guns.
They do shoot each other too.
What's the motherfucker that was the vice president for
That's
Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney? You ain't gonna Dick Cheney me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
They'd
right.
been like, look at him. He's 6'3", he's big. We thought he was a bear. We shot him. Shit, no.
And and not even and that's not even an extreme situation. That's a common everyday occurrence. People going hunting and accidentally shooting a friend. So they can make up any kind of story, right?
And the thing about it is, to your point, Lab, there may not even been any ill intent. It could have been accidental. But because Black bodies, Black people have been considered so disposable, how it's resolved, like, okay, we accidentally shot him. We got to call, we got to get him aid as soon as possible. You might not get that same level of care because, like, you know what? Like, we ain't gonna get in trouble for this shit. We can just go ahead and just say, hey, he drowned. He wanted to stay back.
We've seen, and I think it might have been in Texas, maybe, where they were a lot of Black people particularly were now I won't say they were missing, but they were unhoused and lost contact with their family and they died. And the morgues had their information and never reached out to the family member. And they sold them to university. I want to say University of Texas for research and stuff. And they found this out, a couple years ago.
Yeah, it definitely happened. And this type of stuff, there was a young lady, I think she was like 40 years old, football mom. She went to hang out with the other football moms who happened to be all white. Okay, she went out at 2 a.m. to go smoke. Then next thing you know, they find her at 7:30 a.m. the next morning, dead in the backyard, but they don't call the police until like an hour and a half later. Oh, she was drunk, fell off the balcony. Why would she be drinking around all these white folks? She don't hardly know. To the point where she's that knocked down drunk. And then why she got these abrasions and shit on her. Kendra Johnson.
Looking for
Kendra Johnson, you find him rolled up in a wrestling mat. Right. You find him rolled up in a wrestling mat, and he went to go get his shoe. He he went to go get his shoe and he died of asphyxiation because he got stuck in the mat.
Right.
And to try to sit here and gaslight black people into thinking like, okay, man, these accidents happen. Maybe once, maybe twice, but not 3 times. No, I don't believe it.
Fool
I
me
don't believe
once, you
it. Yeah,
know.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So I
And
understand what you all are saying in terms of you never want to be insensitive and say, like, well, why y'all let them hang with the white folks? You should have been out there no way. That's absolutely true. But I'm sure that's not going to ease the pain of Nolan Wells' family.
right. Mhm.
Right? It can still be a teachable moment without us being insensitive
Yeah,
for
no,
our
and
own families and children.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming him for letting him go out there, him being out there. All I'm saying is that we have to be, when things like this occur, you can't just say, oh, I don't want to be insensitive. You do have to talk about that. We have to be more intentional in the neighborhoods we move to, more intentional on where our kids are going to school, who they're around. Because oftentimes, and this, I've looked at it and I've said, man, it's almost like we're you're saying I'm better than you other black people. I'm gonna move out here. I got mine. We could put we talked about it last time, Rika. We were talking about investing back in these communities that we don't live in. Well, how about you take the above average tax base that you have and you take it to a location that doesn't necessarily need that money, right? So then it's cyclical, right? So we keep perpetuating that. And so those urban areas or other areas, low income areas, they don't have those people who can be examples or who can lead the teacher, say, oh, these dads are involved in the PTA or these moms are involved in the kids' lives. And so it becomes a cycle. And like, nobody gives a care around here, so I don't give a care around here.
Mm.
But it's all by design,
Yeah, no, exactly.
When
Yeah.
and it's a system.
Because
So,
quite
so
frankly, you can get a house for 300,000 out in the suburb or something. And if you try to live in the city, in a quote unquote area where you still want to have a good school for your kids, then the property value, the taxes, all that is sky high now.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of do gotta move it. I mean,
yeah, but what I'm saying is a system though. So you got quote unquote urban schools, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you look at the neighborhood, if there's not good jobs for the parents have to work additional hours. So that means there's lack of supervision for the children, right? They're not making the same wages. So the tax base isn't there. So then you have the schools that don't have as many resources. So then you have, we go back to the pandemic. I think I told the story before. My ex-wife at the time, she worked at a school where as soon as we shut down for the pandemic, each kid had their own tablet and laptop within a week so they could continue to learn from home. But my friend who was in North Omaha, which is predominantly Black, there was no such resources. So you got mom who may have 4 or 5 kids and they all have to get online to learn, but the only thing they have is mom's cell phone. It don't equate. There's no it doesn't match up, right? So you then put up in a position as a Black parent, like, okay, do I want to keep it real, keep my kid grounded with people that look like them that may happen to live in this neighborhood? Because there are Black neighborhoods, right, that aren't quote unquote disadvantaged. But do I move them out to a certain place then where now their psyche and their spirit is being attacked? I'm a perfect example of that. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in my first 10 years of my life, I grew up in the hood of Topeka, Kansas. The fucking hood. And then my pops was like, nope, we're not gonna lose this one. So we're gonna move out here with the white folks into rural Kansas. And so, yes, the level of education that I was able to get was better, but every day was about it. You're battling the teachers who are racist against you, the administrators who are racist against you, and a lot of them white kids whose parents are racist, and that shit trickles down to the people that you interact with. I remember several times thinking I got a friend who happens to be white, I'm hanging out with them, and the next thing you know, they accidentally dropped the N-bomb. And I'm like, damn, man, I thought we was cool. You like to listen to Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, but you still call it just because how I am, you call other black folks nigger. Hopefully we
Yeah.
don't get flagged for that. I'm gonna tell this story. I'm gonna get on y'all's couch.
Oh, that's the one word you're not gonna get flagged for. You're
I'm
good.
gonna you're right. I'm gonna get on y'all's couch for a minute. I will never forget. I was in 6th grade. And I don't know about y'all, but like your classroom would do different things. Like we would adopt families for Christmas. And we adopted a family. Our classroom and the other 6th grade class, we adopted this family for Christmas. So we got all these toys, food, hams, turkeys, all this kind of shit, right? Oh, it's a mom with 3 kids. So one of them is a boy. So we bring stuff for the boy and all this, that, and the other. And I'll never forget, we were outside of the school waiting for the family to pull up so they can get their gifts. And when they got out the vehicle, it was a big fat black lady. And you know how sometimes you big and your clothes bunch up or whatever. So she was kind of struggling to get out the car. And all them little white kids was laughing at her. And I looked, and the principal, who I thought was cool, he was laughing too. And here I am, 11, 12 years old, stomach and knots, wanting to tell these black people, man, don't take shit from these white folks. And they was just so happy and stuff. So that's the type of stuff that you subject your kids to when you move them down. So that's why they have Jack and Jill. That's why Jack and Jill started, right?
Yeah, that's
Listen,
what I
we
was
got
gonna
the
say.
black
Yeah.
kids in all these white spaces. We got to keep it connected to
Keep them
black
connected.
people. Then people tried to vilify that by like, oh, y'all bougie blacks think y'all better than everybody else. Nah, we shouldn't feel guilty for whatever level of success we obtain, but it doesn't make us a sellout because we want to try to give our kid the best chance to have a good future. So it puts parents in a difficult situation. I don't know.
Very.
No, like he was at I think he was at a junior college. He played football at a junior
Yeah.
college, or maybe he was
Hmm.
D2 or something like that. And he did have a
Mhm.
black friend, but I got kids who have friends who aren't black. And to Rika's point, there's certain families I knew, like if he stays with them, I know their standard of how they raise their kids. I ain't really got to worry.
Mhm.
But, and I'll say it, the exception doesn't make the norm.
Mhm.
And there's different standards for our cultures that we have to be mindful of.
No,
Yeah, and like you mentioned Jack and Jill, they're not the only organization. That's the whole thing, is we have to keep them connected somehow, with other kids and I'm not gonna say necessarily family, but I mean, I think more so kids and around their age that they can interact with and share some experiences and have commonality with.
And see, and that's crazy because obviously I'm a little more hood than most people that I know, but I had never heard of Jack and Jill until I was good and grown, and my kids was way too old to be trying to get them involved with some type of stuff like that. But I don't know any, like you said, there are other ones. I don't know any other ones. I only know that one because I feel like some people that I know recently joined or something like that, but I never knew the origins or the purpose behind it or anything like that. So I never paid anything like that any attention. For me, I try to use sports and their activities to
Yeah,
keep them
that too.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
But then my children, like, because we kept them in sports in U City, in the city as much as we could until it got to the point where just, they got too old. They started playing with the schools and then it changed. But then also the dynamics of it changed. But similar to your story, when my daughter was a freshman, man, we had so many incidents with that child. They knew me at the school because my daughter came home one day like, I wish I had blonde hair and blue eyes. I was like, what? And she was like, well, my teacher tells everybody else that they're pretty, but me, she never tells me that. So I think if I had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she would tell me I was pretty. Baby, I was up at that school the next day. That lady and her life and her job was hanging by a thread. And they was like, all these other things happen or whatever. But I was up there all the time. I was like, let my child come home and say some more crazy stuff. But we put her in like confidence class and all this other stuff. She would leave for a period a day and go do a special class. And I had to start actually like wearing my hair curly so that she could be comfortable wearing her hair curly. Cause I'm like, shoot, I wear my hair straight all the time. She thinks she's supposed to have her hair straight. So I was like, all right, now I got to change my life to combat the stuff that this girl's going through every day. And that was kindergarten.
So
Like,
to your point, and God, I missed her twice on this show. My ex-wife was an educator, and she wore protective styles, right? So, listen, I'm gonna wear a weave, I'm gonna wear a wig or whatever. And I always tell her, I said, listen, you natural, you should wear your hair natural, just every now and again at the school. But you ain't got to do your hair. You bald. You ain't got to get up and do hair. I get that. But I'm saying, you got young Black girls that are looking at you. It'll mean a lot for them. One day she did it, not because I asked her to, but because, listen, it just so happened to be something that she wanted to do. And she said, you know what? So many of those little girls was like, Miss Banks, I love your hair. And it really meant something to them to see a Black woman who was an educator, because I didn't grow up with Black educators. I think there was one Black teacher at my elementary school. She happened to be my cousin, so I couldn't be in her class, right? I didn't have a Black teacher until I got to Mizzou.
Wow.
I didn't have a Black teacher until I got to Mizzou. That's the type of environment I had. So it was critical that I had a mom who reinforced that, hey, listen, you are a handsome Black man. They want to be like you. You got to be better than them. You can run circles. You have to have that type of support at home to make sure that because these kids, if you let them, you'll have your smart Black child in a remedial classroom.
For sure. Yep. Happens
They
all
would
the
have
time.
and some of us try to say, oh, listen, well, I'm gonna send my kid to parochial school. They the worst. Because they'll do everything to try to get your child up out of there. Say he's a behavior problem, set him up to fail. But if the school to prison pipeline, it's real. And what's missed in that, and I get in trouble when I say this, there are, and I listen, and I love my Black sisters. I think everybody knows this. But there are a lot of our Black sisters who are grown, our age, who are probably undiagnosed, neurodivergent, because they were neglected in the schools when we were kids. Because they really tried to put the young Black men in special ed. Because if we put the young Black men in special ed, we're getting ready for the prison. If we put the young Black men on Ritalin and shit like that, we're getting ready to be drug addicts. We ain't necessarily got to do that with the young Black women. We could just be mean to them. Say, hey, listen, the white girl's cute, you not. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that type of service and support, all of our children were being neglected. It just happened in different ways.
Mm-hmm. In the 8th grade, one day I was sitting in the locker room and this Black girl was with her group of white friends and they were all pulling her hair and pushing her around and stuff like that. And I was just sitting there and I was like, is that what I look like with my white friends? And I was like, yeah, that's it for me. That was the day I stopped letting people call me Nikki. That was the day I started telling people about themselves every day of their life. And that was the day I turned into this. But that day I was like, let me tell you what I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be that.
And listen, y'all know me. Y'all know I'm super Black power. But there was a time when my parents moved me to that white school. I tried to assimilate because sometimes it's just easier to do so.
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell you, the person who saved my life was my cousin, Montez Bug. My cousin that still lived in the hood came to visit for the weekend. School had a skating party. So Montez goes with me to the skating party. My little white friends from school, they had the skating party. So as soon as we get up in the skating party, my voice changes. Hey guys, oh, he's a geek. I'm talking, and Montez turned and looked at me, and I said, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I'll never forget that to this day. He turned and looked at me like, what are you doing? And I was like, you're absolutely right.
Man.
Absolutely. So that even now in corporate America, I don't change my voice. Like my voice may be professional, but I distinctly remember, maybe y'all's moms did this, but I remember making fun of my mom because she had a white ass voice when she was on the phone. Like her changing her voice so that she didn't sound Black, so that she wouldn't be discriminated against when she was talking to on the phone. I'm not doing that shit. Because you deal with these country bumpkins, they ain't got to change nothing up.
Right. And that's the thing. And it's not, like you said, you can be professional, but keep your same voice. But you
Right.
know, and so that's the thing. When you go altering the pitch and the tone of your voice and cadence, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's.
I think sometimes you don't even notice it until somebody call you out and you be like, nah, you got me.
Yeah, I
But
mean, there's times, I mean, and I'm saying this as a 49-year-old man. When I
Yeah.
first got into corporate America, I probably did change my voice. I ain't gonna front. I probably did, right? But now that I'm more secure in myself as a man, I'm not doing that shit.
I don't know. I had the added negative aspect of racial ambiguity. So when I was in the sixth grade, uh, basically the white people and the black people did not hang out with each other in Belleville, Illinois. So they was like, when I first started going to school there, they was like, you got to pick a side. I was like, what you mean? They was like, mixed people got to pick a side. I was like, I'm not mixed. Who do you mean I got to pick a side?
Who they say you
Gotta pick a
mixed? Where
side.
that come from?
Oh
Mixed.
no, that's wild. That's
No,
crazy.
they like you can't hang with both. So you can't if you hang with the black people, they will not let you hang with the white people. So like because I had came from white schools, my first day I sat at the table with the white people. They all got up and moved. I was like, oh, they're not kidding. And then the black people was like, they were so far apart on the sides. I was like, I'm just gonna sit here right here in this middle space and just
Yeah,
create
yeah.
a new
There-
space
There's
for
a there's an
person.
extra level of resentment for race traders.
Yes.
There's an extra level of resentment because there were some of those mixed kids where I grew up that would try to embrace their whiteness, and it's like, you know what, man? I hope it works out for you, player.
But we don't actually.
Yeah, hope it works out. But see, I don't do any fence setting. Now, this is me personally. I don't do fence setting. I have friends who happen to be, I have cousins who have that are mixed, right? My thing is, you do got to pick a side with me. I'm not saying you got to shit on your white side, but all that old like, oh, I'm black when it's advantageous for me, and then I'm mixed when it's not. Miss me with all that.
Cobbler
I think
Nation. You don't do the Cobbler
Right?
Nation.
No.
I think there's a middle ground there. I think that
There is, but
you
you
can
know,
Why?
acknowledge both sides because you
I
can
didn't say you.
like
I didn't say you had to totally
it's not a why.
disregard it.
It's not a why that there a middle ground. It's the fact that there is a middle ground. It's not a why. Yeah,
it
But
just
is there
it's
really though?
factually true. There is.
it
Yeah.
is.
I'm gonna tell you why that's not true. There's a perfect example.
One example, like you said, does not make the norm. You literally
Yep.
just said that. So
Right.
go ahead.
All
Go ahead
right,
and give
but
your perfect
this example is a clear case of why what y'all saying isn't true.
Again, okay, give your one example. Go ahead.
Okay. President Barack Hussein Obama, black man, right?
Mhm.
And we've said it multiple times on this show that is because of his closeness with his white grandparents that he always was conciliatory and wanted to reach out to the other side, and he always saw the good in the other side, and all they did was show him hate. They still show him hate, right? So there really isn't any middle ground. They're going to force you to pick a side, whether you want to or not.
They
So it's
can't
not.
force me
So
to
it's
do it.
not. So it's not. It's not. I'm not being extreme.
The reason I'm going to
But I'm
say
not. I'm not being extreme by saying, "Hey, I really don't do the fence sitting. I'm not expecting you to just totally like forget your white mom, forget your white dad, forget your white family. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is you're gonna be black. You need to be black.
But you
Don't
don't
come,
get to define
don't
that
come,
for other people.
or go with the biracials. But don't try to don't you
that's
can't sit on the fence, dog. You
but
can't.
I think you made the point for us when using your example. He was elected to the as the most powerful person in the world.
Man,
You're saying the other side hated him. Obviously, a large
They
portion
didn't.
of them did not.
they,
Yeah.
what?
He wouldn't have got
What?
elected if they hated him. That's
How do you,
impossible.
boy? Are you?
And then
We've had this discussion many a times.
not only that, but what
Black
you're
people is
saying
not going to
is
win.
Have
Black
y'all
people
been
alone are
around
not
white
going to win
folks?
you
Have
the
y'all been?
election.
Do y'all really know how they
that's not
think about that
everybody.
man?
It's not everybody. Obviously, they voted different.
Again, there
What
are
I'm saying, they got,
segments.
okay, but
No, there
wait
are
a minute.
segments.
Let me
Correct.
address this. Let me address this. Can we stop saying it's not everybody? Can we
That's the
stop? Because
whole
it don't
point.
need to be everybody.
But
It
that's
don't
the
need to
whole
be
point,
everybody.
Literally the
Not
point we're
everybody
making.
voted for Trump, but that doesn't mean that they're not in a fucked up situation. It's not everybody, man. Let's stop
That's
saying
I don't
apples to
understand.
oranges.
I
That's
don't
not the point
understand
we're
that
making.
analogy either.
That's
Yeah.
this apples to oranges.
Why
Our
do y'all
point
think
is
that?
that it's not everybody hated him, or else he couldn't have gotten elected. The point is, what we're talking about, what you're talking about, is that your politics need to be aligned with the advancement of Black people, and that doesn't have anything to do with how you live the rest of your life. That's just one aspect of life. So your
That's
politics
what
as
I
a
think.
mixed person can be aligned with the advancement of Black people while you still embrace your white side, your white family.
That's what I
And
said.
That is not what you said. You said you can't ride the fence. That's your
yeah.
policies
Hold
and
on, hold on, hold on.
political
Wait.
is not your
Let me
total
repeat. Let me repeat. Let me repeat.
humanity.
Let me repeat. I said, I don't expect you to forget your white mom or your dad or your white side. Did I not say that? I said that, right? Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you
Yeah.
don't want to say yeah, 'cause I know you don't want to
No,
admit
you
I'm
did.
right.
You
I know
did.
you don't
You
want to
did.
say yeah, 'cause I know you don't want to admit I'm right. But I said, if you want to be down with Black people, you have to be all the way down. That fence sitting shit don't work.
So, and
It
what
don't
we're saying
work. It don't work.
so we can get into the bushes about what fence sitting
What?
actually means.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because
That's
I
well,
mean,
it has to be
obviously we're
broad.
not seeing that as the same thing, but
Right.
what I'm saying is that what you believe in politics is not that doesn't it's not the totality of your humanity. So that's not fence sitting. And if you don't agree with me on some political point, then that doesn't mean that you're not fully embracing the Black side. Now, you want to argue with me about reparations, I'm going to feel away. But you want to argue with me about how certain policies and stuff may or may not impact it. There's more than one way to do things, so we may not agree. We don't even all agree. So which one of us is riding the fence on the same policies and not? That's it's impossible to
You
always agree
couldn't.
with somebody. So you
You
can't.
couldn't ride
You
the fence because I'm right.
Lord,
Yeah. Very few things are absolutely right and wrong. What they
yes,
say
I
on the
will say
math, the
this. I
science
will
is
say this.
universal.
I
Right.
will say this. You know, I love you to life. And we ain't got to go there. I'll leave it alone. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
listen,
I don't want anybody to see. I don't want anybody seeing a crack in the family.
please.
I don't want to
Right.
see a crack in the family. Speaking of cracks in the family, what's up with your boy Hakeem Jeffries?
He's a bum.
He
I
riding
don't.
the
Even-
fence.
I don't even. For real. For real.
No, I'm being dead.
For real.
Count
For real.
dead on that
Yeah.
one. He
Yeah. For
riding
real.
the
He is.
Riding the fence.
For real. He is. For real. He is. So there's a bill out. There's a bill where let me read it because I want to make sure I'm factually correct. Okay. So basically, hold on, y'all. So, there's a lot of controversy behind the support that the US government gives to Israel, right? And there's legislation put out to limit the amount of aid that we're giving to Israel. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's going out. I think that I read something that says since the 1940s, we've given over $200 billion
Mhm.
to Israel. $200 billion to Israel, right?
It actually sounds low, but yeah.
And old people.
So, and I'm going off of what Politico said, so I'll just put that out there. I think it says about $200 billion
I guess
that,
maybe, yeah.
that's been given, and so now there's legislation put out. People are saying, listen, we need to, cut the aid to Israel. And Hakeem Jeffries said he won't support that bill, right? Whatever reason he gave was that it was overreaching and it would limit the ability to aid Palestine and other people and blah, 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 blah. Obviously, for a lot of people who don't agree with the Zionist tactics of Israel, that's a problem, right? And I think that's on both sides. I think there's Republicans that feel that way, and there's definitely a lot of Democrats that feel that way. So for him taking that stance is something that is considered a considerable letdown for a lot of people. Hearing what he's done and the stance that he's taken, what are your thoughts on Hakeem Jeffries and him as being the head of the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives?
You're next.
That's what he wants. He doesn't want to ruin his chances of being in
Right.
a higher position of power. And that's my problem with these politicians is that
Yeah.
power corrupts. And they just want so much of it and they get high off of it. It's like celebrities. They need the attention. Politicians need the attention. They just use their brain to get it instead of their acting or their athleticism or something like that. They use the political system to gain this notoriety and this fame and attention. And it's sickening. And I wish we could just put term limits on all of these people. So it's like, oh, darn, you didn't make it to the speaker before you got booted out of this mug. Too bad. Why don't you make some sense in your voting and do things that actually make sense for the world and not just for what you think is going to advance your political career?
So let me be factually correct. So it said House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries urges House Democrats to vote against bipartisan Massey kind of amendment that would block U.S. military aid to Israel.
Yeah.
I think, well, I'm going to disagree with you for a second, Arika. They are acting. A lot of these politicians are acting. So they are using their acting skills. But not knowing the full context of it, I don't know. Maybe there's something that's, if you say we're blocking the aid here, maybe it does affect how you give aid to other countries. I don't know. Maybe he's because it singles out that one country. I don't know, but because I guess he hasn't really. I mean, like you said, he said it will affect how they give aid to other people. I don't know the ins and outs of how the purse strings go, but it sounds fishy to me. I do think it needs to be reined in. We're giving them just the ability to just do it. They know they got a purse with the U.S. at the bottom, just keep refilling, and there's no checks, there's no questions asked. They're committing war crimes, and we turn a blind eye, and so it does need to be checked.
And there was this rumor out that we were going to be merging our military with Israel's military. So I looked that up to see, okay, then what exactly are they talking about? So basically, it's like they would have a cooperation, like a understanding where they would be working on like technology, defense technology, testing, all the different things that this war machine is good at. And I'm talking about Israel. And that's problematic to me because they are ruthless when it comes to some of the things that they have done in the Middle East, or what people say Southeast Asia or Southwest Asia, right? And, you saw the thing where they had the different pagers or the different cell phones where they wired them to explode. The different type of
public markets and all kinds
public
of
markets, right? The different type of espionage that they've done. A lot of people believe, I don't want no problem with the rules, but a lot of people believe that they got a lot of high power U.S. politicians under their thumb. So
looks like Jeffries is one of them. Because my thing is, every time there's
allegedly,
I say looks like, so
all right,
catch me on the word, and if you want to.
I already said the N word, and I already talked about racial, so we don't need a third strike.
But my thing is, so every single time there's an issue with the bill, and they're like, I don't want to pass it because this. And they tell us exactly what it is that's in there. The Democrats love saying the Republicans have tried to slide this past y'all by putting this in the bill. If there was something very particular, then he should have brought that to our attention. He hasn't done that, which leads me to believe there's nothing to bring to our attention. And the thing about it is, even if it limits aid to other people, only one country has unlimited aid so far. We over here making them beg, and maybe our Congress is saying, hey, my name is Bennett and I'm not in it from this point forward. You want to keep moving forward at max speed, do it on your own dime. You want to defend or fight, do it on your own dime, because we got our own problems that we're not addressing, like water and things like that. But and AI sucking up all our water supply and the dam going dry and all these other things. We have our own issues, but nobody's addressing these issues because we're running all our money out to these wars that are blowing up airports in Yemen that aren't even, I don't even understand these targets that they have. I just think that for Hakeem Jeffries to come out not in support of the bill without a good reason that the rest of us can understand is irresponsible on his part. And he has forever lost favor in my eyes. Forever.
Well, I think a lot of it though goes back to APAC. I mean, I'm sure if we, did the research, I'm 100% confident that he's probably getting money through them in some shape, form, or fashion. If not directly from APAC, they probably funneled it through some sort of subsidiary that they have because, they've learned to do that, right? Because they know that there's a little bit of a stain, not a little bit. There is a big stain that comes with taking APAC money for a lot of people. But my concern is this. I think number one, they stole the election from Vice President Kamala Harris. But number two, I think that there were some people who were caught up on her stance on Israel and Palestine, and that became an issue that she had to spend a lot of time and resources on defending. And I don't want us to make that same mistake again.
Yep.
I don't want us to make that same mistake again. Yes, I don't agree with the genocide that's going on. No, I don't think Hakeem Jeffries should be taking the stance that he's taking, but I don't want us to get distracted on trying to get the Republicans out of office so we can try to fix some of the damage that they have done. I don't think that we'll be able to fix everything because they went for broke on trying to mess up this country and get everything put onto their side so that they're always going to win. But I just don't need this to be another thing that we get distracted on. And people say, well, I'm not going to vote for Hakeem. I'm not going to vote for the Democrats. I'm not going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries or this person right here. And then we lose ground. Now, Hakeem may be straight, because he's in New York. It's probably a high Democrat. He might get primaried, right? So there may be another Democrat that steps in. But what if there's somebody else that may be more at risk because we are worrying about this tangential argument? It's a big one, but I just think we can't afford to have this type of distraction. And I don't want us to make that mistake again.
I don't think it's tangential at all. They're like literally murdering a whole race of people. And I've said this before, I say it again.
I say it's tangential because it's tangential because I'm worried about the number of Black men who are homeless in America. I'm worried about these schools that are under-resourced. These Black kids can't get an education. So my primary focus is Black Americans. So that's why I call it tangential. Not to say that it's right or to minimize it, but to say that our focus needs to be on improving our condition here.
Right, but it doesn't need to be on keeping Democrats in office that aren't exercising the right humanitarian values that we represent either. We don't want to become them to beat them. So I don't care about just keeping the right Democrats in. I want to get the right representatives in office that actually represent values that will move all of us forward, including especially and most importantly Black people.
You're not wrong, but that is somewhat ideal.
And also, I think, when you bring up Kamala Harris, it speaks to the point. She's already the candidate. So at this point, your arguments about what she's not doing or what she's not doing about the genocide, it doesn't matter at this point, right? Because you have
and it was stupid because she was the vice president.
Right.
That was Biden's administration. Right. Why are you holding it against her?
So you have two options to vote for. And there are a lot of people who are like, you know what, I'm just going to sit this one out, or I'm not going to support her because of this one issue. She's the candidate. Mm-hmm. And if you're what's the alternative? We talk about it all the time. Staying home and not voting is not a viable alternative. We can't afford to do that.
At this point, we can't even afford to split the vote with these other liberal, green, whatever parties. We just, at this point, the state of the economy is so terrible under this Trump administration that we really need to start focusing our support behind who's going to be the candidate now. And I feel like the stuff like this with Hakeem Jeffries is contributing to the voter apathy that we're trying to combat. This is divisive, and that's AIPAC. That's an agenda of AIPAC, making us disillusioned with our Democratic representatives. So now we mad at him. So now we mad at the Democrats. Maybe we'll go over to the Republican side. This is all strategy to me, and he's just a puppet in the playpen, and that irritates me
Well,
for him
that's why
about
I said
him.
we can't afford to get distracted by this though.
Right.
That's why I said we can't afford to let this be something that's like, okay, this is the line in the sand. You supporting Israel and the genocide they're doing. I think you'd be a goddamn fool to support that, right? Unless you're a warmonger like Lindsey Graham. Shout out to Ladybug, right? But I just think we're making a mistake if we allow this to be something that causes us to be apathetic. If this causes us to say, listen, we're not going to vote for the candidate, to last point, who has the best, that has the most likelihood to succeed. We can't lose ground.
Right, but we keep acting like it's only either or. We can hold him accountable for this bad decision and still support him as a candidate. But we can criticize his decision making in this process and still vote for him.
Right. But see, this is the thing though, is at this point, what good does that do for you drumming up all that anti-Hakeem Jeffries if he's the candidate? That does zero for you.
If he's a candidate for what though?
No, I'm just saying in any case, you say you can support him, right? So when it's time for the election, you support him. You don't say I support him, but no, you need to pull your support behind him. Then once he gets into office, then that's when you're able to hold him accountable. Because when you're doing it on the trail, then there are people who are going to say, you know what? He really ain't all that. Such and such told me he really ain't a good candidate, so I'm not going to go vote. And so when you have a number of people that are taking that stance, and ultimately they know they're going to vote for him, but they're still throwing all this, oh yeah, but he do this, but he do that. Hey, we'll address that if and when he gets elected. That's not the time to be saying that stuff.
Address it how? Once he's elected, it's too late. If we elect another person who supports genocide, it's already too late for all of us.
So what are you supposed to do if they are the candidate? That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying I hope it's not the candidate. I think,
but that's
Kamala's
not
the clear.
But that's what I'm saying. He's there. He's there. We're here now. We're not talking about ideal and utopian scenarios. We're talking about what's right here, right now, and you have to go on for that.
So, I mean, I agree with whoever gets put on the ballot is who deserves our full support. But today, right now, when he's making a decision and encouraging other people to vote with him, I'm going to criticize that.
I think
he's in office.
I think all three of us have criticized him.
Yeah, he's in office.
But the point that I'm trying to make is okay, we voiced our disagreement, right? We don't fool with the decision that he's making, but don't take it too far.
Yeah.
Because when you start honing in on that and making that something that is like, oh, listen, that's a problem. It's always going to be a problem. You do increase the apathy of those people who are on the fence. You do increase the apathy of those people to be like, because there were a lot of people like, I'm not voting for Kamala because she supports genocide in Palestine. You think Trump don't?
Right. Yeah. Obviously he does, right?
I mean, obviously. But my thing, I agree.
So then what did they do? So by not voting for Kamala, right? For not voting for Kamala because of whatever stance the Biden-Harris administration had on Israel and Palestine, now you got Trump in the office who clearly is in that not use back pocket. What did you really accomplish? What did you really accomplish by making that something that you force her to focus on and to address all the time? That's the distraction that I say that we can't really afford. You can't do it again. We saw how it worked the first time. If we do it again, that's just dumb.
It's a de facto vote for them, basically.
I get it. But at the same time, I feel like we keep focusing so much on how to skirt people through that we don't lean into enough voter education. We should not be confused about the fact that both people support sending money to Israel. So this should not be a deciding factor because they both feel the same way. If that's the way it is, then voters should be educated on the fact that is how it is. So we shouldn't be saying, I agree that this candidate is better, even though they vote for Palestine, you should say both candidates are agreeing with the genocide of Palestine. I'm just saying we should be leaning more into voter education and less into letting people slide for things.
So correct me if I'm wrong, then. If both sides are siding with Israel and the genocide in Palestine, then what are we making our decision on? We have to make the decision on who's going
that
to make
don't
the
even
best
matter at
decision
that
for
point.
us, right? So it don't really matter. So the third party is not a realistic idea, right? Really, you got either Democrat or Republican. That's really the realistic what we're dealing with. So if you're saying both sides are down with the Holocaust in Palestine, then it's a moot point. Now we have to go down to the issues that
Yep,
impact
your
us
next item.
as
Yep.
Black people. Because if we just say, hey, listen, why am I going to sit here and try to harm the candidate that's going to actually make my life better because they're supporting the issue that the other side is going to support probably even more? What's the point of me trying to hurt them with this when I really should be trying to get somebody that's going to be in office that's going to help improve my situation?
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying we should be leaning into the education part so that they understand why they're making that decision. I think people feel like we're just telling them who they should vote for or why they should just let it go because it's not important, as opposed to looking at the who they're supporting. I have this I can't think of it right now, but there's a news source that for every political race they give you an outline of how the candidate stands on each point. Because before I went to go vote, sometimes if I didn't have enough time to research the candidates beforehand, I'll just look at that. And I was like, one time I was going to vote and I was like, wait a minute, why does the Democrat have the support of the police union? That never happens. So then I actually looked into that issue and I was like, oh, because this Republican is for deunionization. So that's why they don't support that candidate. But I I I got to make a decision based off of education and information, not just off of somebody saying, well, both of them are bad, pick one. And I think that that's the point, that I think that people would have less apathy if they understood why we were saying make these choices, make these decisions. If we're saying your life is going to be better, this issue isn't going to be impacted, but your life will be overall better if you pick this person, we could have a bigger impact on voter participation.
I think again, I don't think you're wrong. I just think that it's an ideal situation that isn't 100% practical. I think we sometimes overestimate the education level of the populace, which is done intentional, right? They want us dumb so that we aren't able to have that critical thinking that you're talking about. Um, and for some people, you do have to have a candidate that, in cases, Barack Obama. Barack Obama, I don't know of an, obviously I voted for him because he was a Black man, right? But in terms of how he presented himself as a politician, he made it easy for the white folks that you said voted for him, because clearly they did, right? He made it easy for them to vote for him because of the policies that he put forward. He was damn near a perfect candidate. And you have to have somebody who is damn near um, perfect to get people out in mass to make it easy for them to vote. When you start muddying the water and creating confusion and shit, then you just add into the apathy. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not ready to count us out just yet. I'm not ready to count out critical thinking in the average person just yet. I think the problem is that people count them out every single day, and then
No
they
child left
start
behind. No child left
measuring.
behind. Fuck that up. Because a lot of these kids that's voting now, they don't have critical thinking. They learn how to pass a test, and they're not as educated as we were at all.
That's fine, but we can have conversations as opposed to just telling people what to do and how to vote and then telling them they're dumb if they don't vote. Because then we're no better than them. We're just doing the same thing over and over again and wishing that the results would be different. We have
But
to start educating each other.
there's a lot
But the thing about it is that's why they win.
well, and
You keep
honestly,
saying we know better than them. Okay.
well, see, this is the thing too. The critical thinking aspect is important because a lot of the people that are voting, they never have to use critical thinking skills. They're told what to do on their job. They don't have decision making, and so that's what they're used to. So they do need someone to spell it out for them. This is who you need to vote for, because that's what they're used to doing. They never make a decision, they outside of their home. They never have to make a decision that impacts anything.
And I'm
And you
not
know
saying that
what?
that's not true, because I'm saying you could still have the spreadsheet where it says this candidate supports this one doesn't, this one supports this one doesn't. You don't need critical thinking to say, hey, this matters to me and this doesn't.
I think
And
to bring it
Enrica,
back though to
and
the
Enrica,
Israel part, like that don't even need to be on the spreadsheet. Is what I'm saying.
and Enrica, I'm gonna tell you something. I live in a neighborhood that is adjacent to a LGBTQIA neighborhood here in Dallas, right? And they be on point. They have, hey, listen, here, you want this list of candidates that support LGBTQ rights, whatever. Nah, I'm good. Don't worry about it. I already know who I'm going to vote for. I think you overestimate, even if you laid it out on a spreadsheet, they ain't gonna read that shit.
I'm not saying a
They
spreadsheet.
not.
I'm
That's
saying
what you just
You
said.
literally just
You
I
said
literally
did
just said
just
a
say
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet, but I'm not saying a spreadsheet like that. I'm not saying like an Excel document where they got to navigate through it. I'm saying these are the candidates. This is what they support.
And they
yeah.
not gonna read it.
Yeah, most depend upon in our most urban areas, they'll have something like that. There'll be some kind of political action group or committee in that local area that provides that. Now, obviously, it's going to slant towards their
Linda.
their party or what have you. So then you have to use the critical thinking skills to decide which group you're listening to, right? So there's not going to be just a nonprofit that's just going to put all the facts on there. If I get it from this group, then obviously what they support is going to be weighted heavier, and that's going to show up on the list. If I get it from this other group, then it's going to show up this way. So it's
But
probably
to your point, Erika, I'm not saying that educating voters is not something that we should be doing. I disagree with the tactic. I think in the past, what I have seen successful, uh, growing up in the Kansas City area, I remember the radio station being very vocal about different measures that were going to be on the ballot and how it would impact the Black community. And they would take time in different segments to explain why you should vote against this, why you should vote for this, right? And I think that was a lot more impactful than asking people to read. A lot of people don't read above, I think, what do they say, above a sixth grade level or whatever. There's a lot of people that don't. You can roll your eyes, but that's true.
No, I'm
So
saying I
they'll be able to listen, and that goes back to what the Republicans are doing. Shout out to Larry Ellison, where they're trying to buy up all the media outlets, right? Then you have what's the one that does the Breakfast Club? Is it iHeartRadio? It used to be we had local radio stations, right? We had local radio stations. So if you went to Kansas City, type music you heard here, there may be some crossover, but you're gonna hear different regional music, and people will be able to speak to what's going on in that community. Now you got the Breakfast Club being played in all markets. Where are people gonna get the information from? Charlemagne, we know how that's gonna go, right? So to your point, I'm just saying, yes, we need to educate people. That's why they need to listen to the Man Listen show. That's why we need other platforms where people are going to listen and be educated and have people put that information out there. So I think we're saying the same thing, but I just disagree with
yes.
the tactic.
Well, no, I'm saying what you're saying, how you said you listen to it on the radio and they explain to you how the measure is going to impact them. I'm saying that's the information we need to be disseminated. And if we got to make it at sixth grade level, so be it. But we got to start getting that information to them so they're not just being told, vote for this measure. They understand the impact of the measure. That's all I'm saying.
Kathy Hughes used to do that a lot when she was the owner of Radio One, and people say, "Oh, this angry black lady." I remember my cousin; he's a capitalist, so I didn't expect less from him. But he was like, "Oh, this angry black lady." I said, "No, she's keeping it real. She's talking about the things that are impacting black people, and you need to be able to listen to that. And if you hear it on, you hear something on repetition enough, it'll probably sink in, and you'll be able to say, okay, this is something I need to be speaking out against, or I need to be voting against."
Mhm.
So that's why we need people to subscribe to the Man Listen show. Share it with your friends. Blackest radio show in America. Go to our go to our Instagram. Click that link in our bio. I messed up. But normally, what I say, I think we talked about it enough. I'm all off today. But anyway, I think we talked about it enough. Make sure you go to our Instagram, click the link in the bio, and make sure you tell your friends. We need to get them, we need to get those followers up, man. We like at 5 something, man. We need to be at least at 1,000. We need to be at least 1,000 followers, man. So tell your friend, tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your kids, follow us, because these kids, they need this information, right? So with that being said, we'll catch you next time. Peace. Shout out to C.
Don't leave their phone.